As we come close to finishing the Christmas season, we got this beautiful imagery today of light and darkness, a shining star breaking in to our human life, our human experience, and shining upon people who were in darkness to bring light of the world. And of course, this might sound familiar. This is how Jesus speaks of his own self. In the Gospels, he says, "I am the light of the world. I shine in the darkness." What did the Magi see, and what does this star represent? In the history and in astronomy and biblical scholarship, they've ascertained that during the time of Jesus' birth, that there actually was a few historical phenomenon regarding the stars. So there was actually a supernova at that time that was recorded in other areas of the world, a star that was burning out. There was also maybe the potential for planets to align to create this incredible phenomena, and maybe that's what the Magi were seeing. It happens once every couple of thousands of years, and historians say it was likely that one of these events actually happened around the year 0 BC when Jesus was actually born. So kind of beautiful to think of our Lord, creator of the universe, creator of the stars. He placed them in their place. He knows them by name, that he used these phenomenon to catch the eye of these three scientists, these three astronomers. They're kind of mysterious men, magi, or the wise men, but they were searching. They were actually searching the heavens, and they were open to a sign for the world. And they followed that star or that supernova, that amazing eclipse, whatever it was, and it actually led them somewhere. It led them to someone. It led them to the Christ child and completely changed their life, their trajectory for the rest. They went home a different way as the gospel ended. This Feast of Epiphany, the very word epiphany means a revelation, like an unveiling. So if you think of even like something comes to you like, I had an epiphany moment, something that was unclear is now clear. This Feast of Epiphany, it really celebrates the truth of Jesus came for all. He came not just for the Jewish people, but for everyone, for all the Gentiles, for all of the nations. And almost every single one of our readings today kind of reinforces that point, that all the people throughout the entire world will actually stream towards God. The light of all the nations has come. So these three mysterious characters, the wise men, they represent you and I, Gentiles. Most of us don't have Jewish descent, but yet we're called to communion with God, with what he's done in human history by entering into our time. But it took time. It took time for this event to happen. So just even to think, how did it start? Our Lord spoke first to our father in faith, Abraham. And at that time, there was one faithful man, Abraham, who followed him, the one true God. And through Abraham, he had his son Isaac. Isaac had Jacob and the 12. And by the time that they, in the great famine, they went to Egypt, because that was the only place there was food, there was only about 70 people in their family that followed the one true God. But over the course of hundreds of years, by the time it gets to Moses, he leads the Israelites out of captivity from Egypt, and the Israelite people were probably about 1 million people in total. But that's still not very many when you think about all the people on the earth. And in the time of Joseph and Mary, when Jesus was born, maybe Israel was about that same size, 1 million, 2 million people. So still pretty insignificant. But the good news of Epiphany, this revelation that salvation comes to all the world, is if we think about now, how many Christians are there in the entire world, way more than 1 million, way more than 2 million, that this message has really gone out far and wide to the entire world. Amazing that God's deepest desire is to bring salvation to all of us, to his chosen people, and through them to the entire world. That shows us something about the tenderness of his heart. But we know it's a little tricky because not the entire world is Christian, right? Like, it didn't just continue to grow. There's many people that actually have fallen away from the faith and decide no longer to follow the truth of what God has done in our world, what he's done for us. The tricky business of human freedom, our free will, we have to choose. I just like to contrast the characters of the wise men and King Herod regarding an open heart that searches for God. So we see that Herod, perhaps, it says that he was a Jew. He was of Jewish descent and maybe some other mixed blood in there. But he wasn't waiting for the coming of the king. He thought that all I need in this world is what I have, my worldly power, my position, my authority. And so when he hears the good news that the Christ child is born, his searching heart is not open to that revelation. He actually closes himself in fear. He says, if there's another king, that means there's some competition for me. And he hatches this plot to figure out, where is this child born? Because I can't deal with this competition. I need to hold on to my own. So perhaps there was a time, though, when he was younger, we don't know, when he was really open to searching for God. And maybe eventually he just got discouraged and said, maybe the Messiah isn't coming. Maybe it's not going to come in my time. And even if he does, maybe I don't want him to come. So he lets this discouragement maybe settle into his life. So a principle for us, it's going to happen, discouragement in our lives of trying to follow the Lord. And we're allowed to have it. We're allowed to have bad days, to be discouraged. But we just can't sit down in it. We just can't stop and say, I guess this is just it. I'm just going to stop. I'm not going to keep searching for God. The one thing we can't do is let discouragement have the final word. We just have to say, no, I'm just going to keep searching. I'm going to keep my heart open, facing God, letting myself search for him. And these images of the wise men, the three magi, they're on a journey. They're searching. And we know that they found the Christ child, but we have no idea how long this journey actually took them. It could have taken them months, perhaps even years, of all the countries they had to go through, all the prophecies, all the learning, and they're searching, say, oh, where is this? Where is the Lord revealing himself to me? And maybe they were discouraged. One of the three was about to give up hope, but one of his brothers said, no, we're close. Let's continue on the way. Let's continue on the journey. There's something waiting. There's something waiting for us. Perhaps what they experienced in their heart was that the one they were searching for was actually also searching for them. I think of how St. Augustine speaks so tenderly about his own search in faith for God. He says, I discovered that I had a restless heart, and that my heart searched restlessly for you, Lord. But I found that you actually were searching for me even more than I was searching for you. That my restlessness was met by you searching for me. So this light, this epiphany of God's desire is really the truth that he searches for us. He wants to draw us, every single one of us, the entire world, actually to him. But we have a choice. We could be like Herod, we could be discouraged and say, no, I'm not going to search anymore. Or we could be like these wise men to say, I'm just going to keep my heart open to searching. I'm just going to let the Lord lead, let him guide, let him direct me. The gospel ends with those beautiful words that after the wise men met Jesus, they decided to go home a different way. They had this profound encounter with him that changed them. and they went home by a different route. So for you and I, if we can let our hearts stay open in this searching disposition, it's actually okay not to have all of the answers and not to fully have our faith fully figured out, all the routines in. It's okay. But if we just let our hearts stay open to Him and to faithful to the next step, that's where the adventure is. And I know I've experienced that in spades here at St. Ambrose. I think that's why we're feeling so alive as a parish, is there's really hearts that are open to search for Him, and to realize there's deeper intimacy, there's deeper love that He has for each one of us, and I actually want to taste it. I want to taste it. So perhaps in our searching, we're only 5 days into this new year, perhaps we might just say, well, maybe I've struggled to have a consistent prayer life, but maybe this year I can really let the Lord help me to be faithful to little steps where I can get a prayer life, a prayer routine daily, where I can spend time with Him, who's actually more convicted and more searching for me than I even am for Him. He wants this for me. He's fighting for me to develop those habits of a routine of a life of prayer. Or more practically, perhaps, every time we come to Mass, maybe there's one thing that consistently discourages us or tends to maybe stop our traction forward in our life of faith. Maybe every time, just as an example, we go to confession and we always confess being impatient. Well, maybe every time we come to Mass, we ask the Lord one thing. We say, Lord, may you grant me the grace to be patient. And when we touch Him every time at Holy Communion, we can be encouraged that we go home a little bit different, a little different way. That is these little steps of contact with Him when our hearts are open in a searching disposition, that we actually are changed. We're allowed to go home in a different way because He meets us right where we are. If it's that discouragement, He'll meet us there. If it's the desire for a better routine of prayer, a life of union with Him, He meets us there. If those little struggles and sins we might have, to ask the Lord for the grace that every time we touch Him, that we'd actually have the strength for Him to transform us, so we, like the wise men, can take a different path, a different way home, and experience this epiphany of Him, the light of the world, His desire for all of us, and we could bring that light to those in our families, those in our workplaces, and to let His light shine.